evening, good evening, good evening. It is Monday night. We are actually working tonight on Plastic Crack for once after a week off. It is episode 14, season 6 of the Plastic Crack podcast. Thank you, everybody, joining us tonight live, and also those on the catch up. We love you all as much as everybody else. Reminder: we're sponsored, as always, by our friends at Boards and Swords in Derby, which, as my friend Steve tells me, is in the north of England. So get along there if you need anything you want to buy. And Ian and his little goblins will help you out, especially if you use the PCP5 code to get an additional 5% off all your already ridiculously reduced purchases. So tonight we are joined by Matt, who is joining us from over the other side of the pond, who is co-founder and co-manager, co-runner, owner of Adepticon.
All the above, yeah.
All the above. Welcome, Matt. Really pleased to have you on board tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Looking forward to this discussion. As usual, I'm joined by my two reprobates. There's Steve from On Point HQ and Martin, Seventh Son, down there.
Hello.
The other one's missing. Don't know where he is. Last seen somewhere. I don't know where he is.
Down a hole.
Down a hole, yeah.
Probably fell down a hole somewhere. So, tonight we're going to dig into Adepticon, find a little bit more about how it became the behemoth that it appears to be. I think Martin and I are both getting very excited about potentially going over next year, so it will give us an opportunity to find out what we're going to see.
I'll get very excited about the convention. I'm less excited about all the things that Ken wants to do around it. That's concerning me. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm less looking forward to traveling with Ken.
It's probably for the safest. So let's have a quick look and see who's in the chat. We got Traj is here, Benjamin is here, Mike, Don is here. Hello, Don. We were just talking about you with Matt. We've got I can't read that name. I'm sorry. It's a Cyrillic one. Red Steph, Alid is here. Carl and Rich M. Andrew. Lazy Pirate is here, hello mate. The real Steve's here.
Hey,
carry on.
Now.
Yeah, we can all start. East Norfolk's is here. Paul's Paint Shed is here. He says, "Hello, Mercia has awoken from the darkness." That sounds like some kind of I don't know, intro to a sci-fi movie. 99999 Payton's here, Andrew's here, Joseph's here, hello Neil as well, Martin Huey's here, Louis Baby's here, Alex is here, Storm is still, hello mate. He's painting some Volks Grenadiers for Chain of Command 2, good for you. Old School FRP, Ian Wright, Lego Fax is here, hello Steve Harbour as well, James Shaker and Strabrew is here, Dutch Army Painter, hello mate. Hello from the Netherlands. Nice and sunny, 22 degrees Celsius. Yeah, it was a beautiful day here. Really nice. Even got the old legs out today with the shorts on. Fantastic. Cheers, mate. Carl's here. Simon's here. Jason, Wargamer of Kent. Hello, mate. Evening all, enjoying a week off and painting some Prussians for Silver Bayonet tonight. Good for you, mate. Jack's here. Evening for a sunny North London. Vikings on the table. Nice eclectic mix as usual from our friends. Friends of General Haig is here. Cardboard Fortress, which is a brilliant name for a username. Noobsphere is here. Hello, mate. Shell Shock Scenics. Double Dip is here. Good. We can start. Real Steve and Double Dip are here. That means it's all good. Mobile and Hostile. And I think I'm getting to the bottom. Sam is here. Hello, mate. And Grand Prix-go. Hello, Anthony. And Philip is here. Here and sober. What are you doing wrong, Philip? So, yes, indeed. Thank you for joining us on a lovely Monday night. Well, it's here. It's a really beautiful day. It's been even nice up there where you are, Steve.
22 degrees it was here today. Lovely and sunny all day.
Lovely, jubbly.
Mark that one in your calendar.
That is your one summer day of the year for the North.
Exactly, yeah.
That's the way it goes. So, Matt, welcome to the show. I'm really pleased that you're able to join us. I reached out because I was really keen to sort of, as Adepticon came to an end a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to get someone in to talk about the show, and you kindly agreed to come on, so I'm really pleased about it. Can you give us a sense of, for those who haven't been to Adepticon, sort of the scale of this event? I mean, how many people do you get through the door over the course of an Adepticon weekend?
Well, this is kind of a new era for us. We've moved out of the Chicago area up into Milwaukee this year for the first time. So we have about 3 times the amount of space that we have had. Previously, we were kind of bursting at the seams at our previous venue. So we probably grow somewhere between 10 to 20% every year. And this year we hit the 10,000 attendee benchmark for us, a big milestone. Prior to that, we had, we missed 2 years due to COVID. And then we had the first year back, which was kind of a flat year for us compared to the year before COVID. And then it started to grow back again in the 23, 24, now 25 year. But we now have so much room at this new venue, as well as the adjacent hotels, that, I think our sort of dream goal would be to hit somewhere between 13 and 15,000, and then kind of try to pump the brakes a little bit. I don't know if that's possible, but I feel like we could handle that, and the facility would accommodate that really nicely. And that buys us a kind of future growth path for the next maybe 6 to 8 years, hopefully.
Awesome. And so, sort of your background in gaming and the hobby generally, how did you start out, and kind of what got you into this mad world?
Sure. I mean, for me, a majority of it was back when I was 9-10 years old, getting into Dungeons and Dragons in the mid 80s, early mid 80s. I had a best friend that I grew up with. I grew up in kind of small town Michigan, but their family was, the family that had Monty Python and Benny Hill, and had all of these things that I hadn't been exposed to. So their house was a little stranger than, most of the houses I was going to. There was a lot more art and a lot more just kind of I don't know, entertainment of the mind going on really over there. And his older brother was big into Dungeons and Dragons, and of course we wanted in on that. It took us a while to break through the barricade, but eventually we got into those games, and then that's all we did, 48-hour gaming sessions on the weekends, thinking about it at school, bringing our Dungeon Master's Guide in our backpack, you name it. So I spent most of junior high and playing RPGs and things like that. By the time I hit high school, I kind of took a break from a lot of that stuff. I got into, skateboarding and music and things like that. And then when I finally hit college, I came back around to RPGs, particularly Call of Cthulhu at that time. And then I started finding the larger game stores in the Metro Detroit area. That exposed me to a lot more things. I was going to the University of Michigan convention, UConn it's called, which is at the time was at the Student Union, beautiful building, mainly going there to play RPGs. And then when I was in the vendor hall there one day, I saw I guess it was the Blue Box Epic, the Space Marine Blue Box. I looked at that and I was like, this looks so cool. And prior to that, I think for me, my only real exposure to miniature gaming was through maybe West End Games Star Wars miniature battles. I had played a little bit of that and really liked it, and actually painted some models for that, and built a board that was, if I think about it, very very unportable. A lot of heavy wood involved in that table. Not a smart move. But we played that a lot because we were playing the D6 Star Wars role-playing game at the beginning of college quite a bit. And then Warhammer to me felt a little cartoony, I guess, when I first saw it the first few times. But there was something about Epic Space Marine that kind of took some of that out of it for me. And I bought that and then just started buying Epic Stompers, Eldar Warhost, and like I bought every army I could get my hands on, and we would set up these massive games in our shared laundry room of our house that we lived in college, and we would just play a turn or two a night, and that really got me into miniature gaming in general. And I played that for a long time. Really got into Warhammer Quest, the 1996 Warhammer Quest game. Absolutely love that game. Still probably one of my top favorite games of all time. And then when I moved to Chicago here in the late 90s, I got into, I was working with a guy who found out that I had started painting orcs and goblins for Warhammer Fantasy. And he was like, no, you need to play 40K. And he dragged me into the world of, I guess, early 3rd edition 40K, Space Wolves. And then that's pretty much all I did for, 4 to 5 years at least.
You were hooked.
Yeah. In that process, that's where, we started organizing locally, message boards and big games and campaigns and things like that. And that's really the seed of where Adepticon started eventually, out of smaller shops, games that we were running in shops and other local conventions and things like that.
Awesome. It's always interesting. The people who get into the hobby seem to follow one of two directions. They come from the D&D via sort of some sort of 40K Warhammer-esque route, or those who come the airfix and sort of the other way.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to see how it kind of all comes together.
I had knowledge of historical gaming, and like I knew a few people who had dabbled in it, but I had never really seen like a big Napoleonics game set up until I first moved to Chicago. One of the first guys I started playing Call of Cthulhu with was a very big historical wargamer and had closets full of lead, and so I would see him at conventions, and that was the scale of those games. Like I always prefer the smaller scale, like 15 mil and under, I guess, for the spectacle of it, which is why of course Epic Space Marine appealed to me so much, I think.
Interesting. So you sort of started to touch on it there. So how did you start and come up with the idea of running a convention like Adepticon, and how did you actually, think this was a great idea?
Yeah.
And when was it, by the way? Yeah, when did it all start?
So I think like between the years of like 2001 and 2003, Jeff Chua and I had started a game club in Chicago primarily for 40K at the time, and we were organizing, on an old PHP BB forum or whatever, and just we had gone down and played a couple of like old school like rogue trader style events down in St. Louis, and we saw how organized they were down there, and we were like, why don't we have this in Chicago of all places, right? So we came back with the kind of mission of creating a game group and getting people who were all into 40K be communicating or whatever. So we started that, and then we started for those 2 years we would run small events down at various game shops, and they went really well. And then we got contacted by another local convention that was run by a game shop here called Hobbytown USA. They used to have a convention called the Ides of March that was every March, and they asked us to come, and they were primarily board games, RPGs, and some miniature gaming. They were a little bit of everything. And they asked us to come, or maybe it was even at the suggestion of someone who was working for Games Workshop at the time, to have us come and run like 40K and fantasy tournaments for the Ides of March. We agreed to do that, and we did that for 2 years. And then we kind of took a look at what we were doing and decided, we could probably do this ourselves. Like we don't really need to, just go do this for this other event. And I can't remember if that event had gone away or what, but in tandem with that, we were all at that time in the Games Workshop Grand Tournament scene, traveling, 4 or 5 times a year to go to a grand tournament in Baltimore or Texas or LA. I went to a bunch. Nobody had kids or was married, or so we just kind of did
carefree days, as we call it.
Yeah,
it was all it was all before air travel got really difficult. You could literally walk through the airport with a pistol case full of miniatures, and nobody was saying anything. So we were doing that, and Games Workshop stopped doing the Grand Tournament circuit, and at the same time they had opened up a Midwest battle bunker. And just all of those things combined kind of got us thinking, like, one, we can do this event ourselves. Two, we want to bring back or continue at least that Games Workshop experience. And the battle bunker was actually very supportive of us doing that. They were actually a pretty big backer or supporter of us in the first couple of years. Like, you could go to the battle bunker, buy a ticket, like a physical ticket to Adepticon or whatever, and they helped run some events. Like, they used to come in and run the Young Bloods events, and they used to help us with some of the painting competitions and stuff like that. And a lot of the people that started volunteering for Adepticon were old, Games Workshop outriders and things like that. So we had a pretty good relationship with them for the first several years, and that really helped us. And at the same time, I think, like, we also wanted to do something unique. Like, we just didn't want to run a grand tournament. I mean, people have been doing this for years. They were fun, but that's how we started leaning more into like the team format as kind of like a unique experience you could have at Adepticon. And we've been doing a team tournament since the beginning. So the first official Adepticon was 2003. At that event and the 2004 event were partnered with Ides of March. So 2005 was our first independent event. And at that point in time, we were still all Games Workshop focused. It took a few more years after that before we started to bring in other game systems.
Interesting. And how big were those early events? You said the current one was 10,000. Sort of.
Yeah, like
roughly how big were you talking there?
2003, I think it was maybe like somewhere right around 100 attendees.
Right.
Yeah, maybe not even 100. That might be like 89 or something like that. And then it jumped up to about 250 by the time we went independent, I think, and then just started kind of scaling from there. So
interesting. Martin, I'm scared. How many do we get on CrackCon?
What that we wanted? No, I mean we panicked. I think it was the second one when we got 50 or 45, 50, and we started to panic then. Yeah, so I can't imagine.
I just looked. Our first independent year, we were 375 attendees, but we had 26 events and we had 375 attendees. This year we had over 1,300 events and 10,000 attendees. So,
jeez,
yeah,
wow. That's quite some scale. Yeah, maybe we won't go that big, will we? No. So I'm intrigued because obviously on this side of the Atlantic, most of our sort of wargaming shows and conventions tend to be a day or 2 days.
Right.
Whereas Adepticon is 3-4 days long? Has it always been like that, or?
No. I mean, in the beginning, it was primarily a Saturday event with a little bit of bleed over into the Friday night. There would be, we used to run kind of just like a 40K gladiator tournament, but it didn't really start till like 7 p.m. on a Friday, right? It was just like one kind of fun game before we got to the actual tournament games. And then it would run maybe a little bit into Sunday early afternoon in the beginning. It was like that for a few years, and then we went out to like kind of a full weekend. And now, I mean, there are things happening Wednesday evening. Like, I wouldn't consider Adepticon fully open on Wednesday, but starting Wednesday around 5, we have badge pickup. We'll have a small number of hobby seminars. Games Workshop will do their big preview event. So there's definitely like things happening starting Wednesday night. This being our first year in a new venue, we were up there Monday to Monday. So we were up there a full 7 days. The staff, for the core staff for the most part. We wanted an extra day to set up just because we were learning the lay of the land,
Wow. Well, that's extraordinary. And I guess the thing that I find most fascinating from just seeing the pictures and videos, and I'll put some of the pictures up in a minute, but it is not only the scale of the thing, but it's the variety you have going on there. So you've got historical stuff, you've got fantasy stuff, you've got cosplays, you've got painting, obviously Golden Demons there, you've got all sorts of stuff going on there. And how do you keep that balance to the event? How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, we
definitely
have to curate our event list like really closely. Like we often get a lot of requests for like public event submission. We just have no capability to really do that. If I were to open up public event submission, I would be out of space basically, like instantaneously. So we have our partners, right? Like we work really closely with Atomic Mass Games. We work with First Games Workshop. We work with Warlord and Mantic and all of those. And so by the time we get done kind of tabling like our relationships and the events we want to come and run, US Nationals for Halo Flashpoint or whatever. By the time we get done tabling those, we might have some space left over, and then we'll go out and take a look at people who have kind of emailed us and asked us to run side events or event games or whatever and fill it with that. So, I mean, we definitely curate the event list very closely. We don't want 240K doubles tournaments being submitted on a Friday. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
A lot of those bigger events kind of have a baked in schedule already. Like I could pretty much tell you what we're more or less running in 2026 at this point. And when it comes to 40K or Marvel Crisis Protocol or something like that.
But it's a deliberate policy to try and keep a good spread and flavor.
Yeah. And more and more we get requests to run things outside of the kind of miniature genre.
Okay.
We do have a small amount we have like one room dedicated to role-playing games. And usually those traditionally have been related. So there'll be like Wrath and Glory or Warhammer Fantasy or one of the Star Wars RPG properties. So they'll be loosely related to what's happening at Adepticon. And then we do board gaming too, because it's a good downtime activity for people. But we have people coming to us and asking us if we'd be willing to expand into card games or more RPGs or have like actual organized cosplay event or whatever. And our answer to that stuff is generally like, well, we're perfectly happy to have some of that at our event. We still really want to stay within our niche there, right? Like we want to be a miniature tabletop wargaming convention. Like we don't have plans on becoming Gen Con 2 or anything like that, right? So so yeah, we definitely kind of keep that a little close to the chest, I guess.
Awesome. I think so. That's an interesting bit to me, is just that combination of different things that always seem to be going on. When when I've seen people's videos of walking around the show and showing what's going on, you've got the vendors hall, which clearly is a draw for some people, but you've got all those competition games going on, the painting stands and all the Golden Demon stuff that's there. You've got all the historical section as well for those weirdos like me that love all that kind of stuff more than anything else. You've got such a variety. It just amazes me. Whereas I think we tend to have in the UK particularly, it tends to be more. I guess a show will be predominantly a historical show with a bit of fantasy weird stuff, and then or it'll be the other way around, where it's almost exclusively weird.
I have noticed at Warfare, Salute obviously just gone, that there are more RPGs now that are creeping. Free League and Modifius. Well, Modifius obviously have a board game, war game side to them already, but they do a massive RPG catalog. But they bought more of that stuff along. Plus, Free League had a massive store at Salute, because I had to avoid it for the entire day because I was about to drop 200 quid there, and I had to avoid it for the rest of the day. So, I think but it is. I've noticed at Warfare as well, which is far more historical than Salute is. It's 75% historical. I noticed that there was more RPGs. and things coming in. The people sent them.
We had
cool. That's very cool.
Free League as a exhibitor this year for the first year, and I think that might have been the first like pure RPG exhibitor we've ever had. I mean, Modifius definitely comes, but they're pushing Fallout, Wasteland Warfare, or whatever more than their RPGs. They might have a small shelf of the Star Trek game or whatever, but I think Free League might have been our first like pure RPG exhibitor ever. So
I mean, that's the thing. Free League has got some. I mean, I've got a whole load of their books there. They've got a lot of properties that they've got, like Alien and Dune and other things. You know, that they've got an awesome catalog as well.
Yeah, I love their games. In fact, I mean, I still do a lot of role playing, like a couple games a week. And Forbidden Lands was our game of choice. The COVID break.
Yeah, that was our COVID game. Tom's going to sit there going, I have no idea what he's talking about now, but
no idea.
Was our pandemic game that we played weekly on I can't remember the name of the thing now, but the online
Roll20
but yeah, you'd really like Forbidden Lands, Dom, because you can it's very, I find it very different to the feel that you get from D&D. Our campaign discovered it started with them trying to be sort of a Robin Hood, rob the rich, feed the poor, and essentially turned into the Sopranos. That was essentially.
Oh, you know me, I'll play any kind of game, really.
I know you will.
I did start playing D&D. That was kind of before I got into historicals. D&D was definitely something I played a lot of and enjoyed it a lot. Now I've seen the light. Certainly historical.
Okay. I think the other thing that is huge, and I mean, I would say Adepticon, there's a lot of events and a lot of things going on, but more and more, we've recognized this years ago, but it becomes more apparent every year that the social aspect of the event is so important to our attendees. And this is the one time that all the internet people are getting together in person. They're able to, particularly the way we do hobby seminars and the way we bring in all these really talented people. A lot of them are from somewhere in Europe, or people that they would never have a chance to interact with face to face. They're all at Adepticon, and that hobby seminar side, I think we had close to 160 classes this year, ranging from painting orc flesh to 3D printing to game design, lecture on how to design games, to sculpting and all of that stuff. That is almost like a miniature convention within Adepticon, because we definitely have attendees that come and they just do that. They don't ever roll a single die all weekend. Right? They're just there for the hobby aspect. Maybe they're competing in Golden Demon or the Worthy or one of the other painting competitions that are going on, but most of them are there just to rub elbows and take some classes and learn something, which is that's been cool to see that grow too, because that's something that a lot of people don't think about. I think when they think about Adepticon, or they think about Adepticon as a tournament event only, and we do a lot. There's a lot of narrative and casual play going on there too. So a little bit of something for everybody, hopefully.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think we all love coming together and talking rubbish about the hobby we love, don't we? Whatever color it may be, whatever form of hobby it is. And I know at Salute, I was chatting to Paul Hicks, and he'd been out. He'd just come back, I think, from Adepticon, and looking a little worse for wear. And he said he never left the vendor hall apart from when it was just chatting with people. And he said, I never talked so much in my entire life that week. Plus, I think he'd been to a few bars, judging by the look of his eyes. But there you go. I'm not one to cast assertions on Paul by any means. It does look an amazing thing. Let's just give you a 5-minute pause, Matt, while we and we'll do a little bit of what we've all been up to in the last few days. Because we haven't had this for a while, and then we'll come back and maybe just sort of crack into a little bit more detail on the event, how it's grown, I guess, and if anybody's got any questions around what it's like to run an event like Adepticon, and maybe suggestions about what you'd like to see next year if you were there this year. I'd love to see that. I'm sure Matt's always up for ideas.
Oh yeah, lots of ideas.
Lots of ideas. Awesome. Steve, I've seen you've been doing some really weird stuff. What have you been up to, mate?
Weird stuff, me? Never.
Yeah, weird shit
right.
is your middle name these days. You used to be Mr. Second World War, and now look at you. You're a right mess.
I know. Things have changed. I've just lent on a sprue and really hurt my arm. There we go. Right. I'm putting together some of these Warlord Games special forces. They're very, very different compared to what I've been working on recently. Right. Yes. Skaven. So
okay.
So these are from 2000. Now the reason I painted these is because a couple of weeks back I found that Lord Skrulk figure again that I bought in 2000 back when I was a young whippersnapper, and I just painted it up because it's a really nice model, and I thought I could use this in Sword Weirdos. So I was rummaging through various bits boxes and I found a bunch of plastic Skavens that I bought in 2000. So I spent the holiday weekend last week painting these up, and there we go. That is four little rat men for my Space Weirdos. Well, in fact, I forgot there's the whole crew.
Hey.
So Skrulk and his body.
I like your shaman one in the middle. That's really cool.
He's a nice model. I say it's like 25 years old. That model is. It's a bit. Yeah. It was abandoned. I painted it and it was abandoned many years ago. I've done some more work on my special forces for Rogue Warriors. So I've finished the squad, and that's them. No, it's just space.
It's just space.
It's just space weirdos. Yeah. So these are what I've been working on for the past sort of 2-3 weeks. All different loadouts for games of Rogue Warriors. That guy at the back with the shield is the one I was making a couple of weeks ago. So
that's the Purvey's, the Perry Purvey.
Yeah. So I thought it'd go really well with a shotgun. So yeah,
I was looking at your video on these, and I just, the faces on these guys were amazing. The detail you got on them, the shading you got on them was brilliant. Really,
I love painting these. They're just such a nice mod. They're just such a nice kit. It's the Deathfield's Ura kit by War Games Atlantic. So versatile. But that's them done. So what I need to do now is paint 3 more for the sort of the PMC types, and I can start. I've got to work on some more scenery, and I can start getting games of Rogue Warriors in. I completed another unit of 10mm undead cavalry. They were fun. No, they are. I do enjoy painting a scale. It's just it doesn't take that long, and I just love the scale. So my army for sort of Midgard and Kings of War and Dragon Rampant is slowly growing. What else have we got? Oh yes, we got some Pinkertons.
Oh yeah, these are amazing.
So they're the Pinkertons from the Black Sheep miniatures range by War Bases. Mm-hmm. As you can see in the background, a War Bases tabletop ready building. I ordered 4 of them and spent a rather enjoyable Saturday morning last week putting them together, and they are absolute. If you're lazy, they are Forest Dragon miniatures, but I get mine pre-printed by ROK Minis. They do starter boxes, all kinds. Check them out, really good. And the miniatures are fantastic for 10mm. They really are. Yeah, so I got the 4 of the War Bases buildings. Spent last Saturday morning putting them together, and for a lazy git like me that doesn't really like painting buildings, they look fantastic. Straight up on the tabletop, they're done. Sorted.
For a man that loves building up bases to look more like terrain pieces, the fact you don't like doing terrain just absolutely astounds me.
For me, it's just something I need to do. But speaking of terrain, I did some scatter scenery over the weekend, which is there.
Lovely.
Hey.
So that
I like the ladder coming out. I like the sewer thing.
that's all Necromunda scenery, so there's Zone Mortalis. There's all the bits. I've got no, I made that Space Weirdo scenery a couple of years back for CrackCon. I've got a box full of all the cast offs, the bits and pieces. I thought, well, let's let's build some scatter. So I just went in there and grabbed random bits and pieces. So yeah, I've got that's an entrance to a secret underground base. It's going to be one of the scenarios to blow that up. One of my favorites though is the one with the toolboxes on. That was from Mantic, one of their terrain crates. But yeah, that was what I got up to. A bit of skirmishy everything, really.
No feel great anywhere.
No.
The times they are a changing.
They're certainly blinking well are. What about you, Martin? What have you been up to, mate?
I don't appear to have done as much as I thought I had. I had a bit of a mad moment where I was looking for something and I couldn't find it. So I've been rearranging the room, and what I thought would take 3 hours is currently taking 7 hours, and I'm halfway through it.
7 hours? It's like a cupboard, that room.
On the cupboard is pretty big. On the upside, the raffle for this year has got a lot of stuff. There's a lot. There's a lot in here. No, so I've been mainly working on Guards of Traitors Toll stuff, but I haven't got any photos of it because I decided to kind of assemble everything and then paint everything and then do all the basing in one go. So I don't have anything that's actually finished for that. Although I'm hoping that sort of by tomorrow they will be. I have been sorting out what I'm going to do and doing my research for the Barons War, and there's a few other things in the pipeline which I can't really actually talk about, but it's very cool. And I'm looking forward to it. And what else have I been doing? I had a game of Midgard against Robin this week, so we played another game as our little setup. We played against the wall, so both of us were. So my Arthurian forces down the bottom are assaulting the Saxons who are camped on the top of the hill. So we figured that because Robin's army wasn't really going to be moving, or it shouldn't be anyway, we turned the table around this time to see if it made life a little bit easier. It was actually quite fun. So that was a good game. There was quite a gradient. Can't really tell from that photo, but there's.
Is that the one where you've got to take the different strategic
standing
points,
stones? Yeah,
standing stone. Yeah, I remember that game.
Yeah, that's the one, and it was quite interesting. It was a really good game. As long as the defender cannot lose as long as he's got at least one standing stone, because he'll always generate reputation before you check it. So he can't lose as long as he's always holding one standing stone, even if all his heroes.
You say that, Martin. I played it and I managed to lose.
How? If you've got a standing stone, you can't lose.
Well, because if the attacker just keeps attacking with their heroes and generating reputation and taking your stones off you.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. If he takes the stones off you, then yes, but you generate 1 point of reputation per stone you hold, and then you check it. So even if you went down to 0 reputation in the turn, you would then generate 1 back, and then you wouldn't have you'd have less, but you still carry on playing.
I think that was the last one I played, which I haven't played another game of it since.
Oh, we had a cracking time. So there's my Arthurian cavalry, which were well, let's just say I forgot that my light cavalry were light cavalry, and then swiftly remembered as they were, and was like, why didn't I just ride up to them and throw things? And you'll see in the battle report what happens. So I was like, no, quickly switch out, bring up the heavy cavalry. So then you send in the heavy cavalry to go charging up the hill, which was great fun. So yeah, that's all I've actually sort of done hobby-wise. I've been doing a lot of editing and a lot of sorting out and sort of planning what's going on. So yeah, that's my sort of side of things. What about you?
Oh, brace yourself.
Yeah, so I did a video about it a while back, so I won't go back over all of it. But I've basically been reorganizing, a bit like you, Martin. The cabin's just had a right-over. It doesn't look like it with my background there, but it's had a heck of a reorganization. So I've been going through all the boxes, reorganizing them, getting them in different places, make sure they make sense. And like you, finding figures that I just didn't know I had and certainly don't need anymore. So
I've got
stuff going on eBay.
Does anyone remember Chronopia? It was made by the people who made. Yeah, I've got loads of miniatures, which I think my mate gave me in sort of like the late
Warzone.
Yeah. It was like the same people. Yeah, Mutant Chronicles. The Target Games made them. I've got like a whole box of these lovely metals, that I think I was given in the late 90s, and they've just moved house with me through the times. And I was just looking through them. So I've got like 3 units of this stuff. So yeah, I know what you mean. You just keep on digging stuff out.
It's quite. I mean, some of the stuff I knew I had. Some of the stuff I knew I had, I just had no idea where it was. And then there was some stuff that I had no idea I had. So it was kind of interesting, but also nice just to I really enjoyed the last couple of weeks just revitalizing figures that have just sat there, partially painted or not, or just undercoated, nothing else. So I showed this earlier, but a Hellenistic pipe block that I had. It's been sitting in a Tupperware box along. There were two 24-man pipe blocks, and I have no idea where they came from. They're metal. They probably haven't been seen in the light of day for at least 15 years. I knew they were there. I just didn't have really a call to use them. So finally got around to painting them, which was kind of fun. And it was really satisfying. So a load of those sort of things I got done. Some cowboys that I had just kicking around. I thought I'd better get them painted up. Some of these I've had not that long, and some I've had an awful long time. So just kind of fun just to get them worked through. Then these, I think I bought these with you, Martin, when I was at Warfare a couple of years ago. They're Athena games, I think they are. Figures. No idea why I bought them, but I thought I'd paint them up, so what the hell. So that was fun, and loads of other stuff. Just loads and loads of things that I've just painted up in the last couple of weeks that I'm not even sure whether I use any of them, but it's just really got on a flow of just getting them done. I mean, another case in point was I finished these yesterday. British Napoleonic battery, 4 guns. They're all Victrix. I made these 2 years ago, and then just ran out of steam. Didn't want to paint them or anything, so they just sort of sat in a box, and they were getting slowly crushed. So I pulled them out and started improve them. I mean, they were so badly crushed that guy in the front's lost his hair. So it's just fun just to dust them down and get them painted and get them done, really. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to. Not so much gaming, but definitely I did actually have an absolutely cracking game of ACW a couple of weeks ago, which was really good. 28mm. We did the first day of Gettysburg down the club, and it was an absolutely brutal game. Really, really fun. Unfortunately, I forgot to take my camera tripod, so I didn't film it. So it was one of the best games we've had in ages, and I didn't record it. And I was so annoyed. Never mind.
Do you think that might have partially been because you weren't recording it? Do you think you enjoyed it? You were able to.
I didn't record this week either, and it was a cracking game. So maybe you're right. Maybe that's the theme. This week it was because we were in the tiny cubby hole for some reason. So the club has 2 levels, and normally it's the big open one, which is not too bad, but every so often we have to go upstairs where it's really, really confined and very, very noisy and very hot. And I just thought it's going to be too noisy to record, so I didn't record. And had a really good game. So maybe that is the secret. Don't record the games. Hey ho, tiddly ho. Right. Blimey, where are we? 45 minutes in. So Matt, thanks for bearing with us on that. I'm really intrigued about. So a few years ago, we had one of the organisers of Salute on, and he was talking about what it goes into organising Salute as a show. And bear in mind, Salute is just one day, as opposed to yours being multiple days. Kind of give us a sense of how far in advance you start planning for Adepticon, what work goes into, how many people are involved in it, a sense of the scale involved.
I think traditionally we would start in August of the prior year. With the move to Milwaukee, we pretty much started the day after Adepticon 2024 ended. So we did a full 12 months of prep. We went up and had to visit the site multiple times and rebuild those relationships with the people that run everything up there. So this year was maybe a little of an anomaly. Gen Con is in August. My general rule of thumb was nobody that works at Adepticon talk to me about Adepticon until after Gen Con's over. I need a break, right? But we didn't really get that last year. So I would say typically we're, August to right up till the event. So August to March is our planning season. August to September, we're pretty much, getting the exhibitors set, getting the event list built, all of that kind of stuff. That moves a little bit slower. We usually aim to get a event list out sometime in early December, and then we have registration launch in early January. So in the meantime, what we're doing there is if we're smart, we're producing merchandise and getting our medals made and maybe getting all of our artwork sorted out throughout the fall so we can get that stuff produced ahead of time. And, we do a lot of our own terrain, particularly for the big game systems. So 40K terrain, the Sigmar terrain, the Old World stuff, most of the Atomic Mass Games terrain, that's all us. Some of the Horus Heresy terrain is ours. And then we provide, how the 40K terrain world goes. We usually end up having to cycle out some of our older tables. So we'll end up with a lot of generic science fiction or fantasy terrain that we then eventually Mantic used to use a lot of our terrain for years for Kings of War events. And, so they end up kind of being around. I think we maybe provided some terrain for some Hobgoblin games this year, but, we end up with a lot of extra terrain that sits in totes that we can, then kind of let people use. So we do a lot. Probably one of the biggest lifts we do is just our, terrain. We do a lot of 3D printing now. And then the painting of that terrain, we definitely have a standard that we want our events to appeal to. And we've set that bar pretty high. A lot of the people that'll come in and paint for us are the, there's a lot of golden demons that those people have. We'll get the Dave Taylors in. We'll get a lot of our hobby seminar instructors will come in, and a lot of the people that we can make fun of that they're lucky if they paint 2 models a year, and now we're making them paint 20 buildings on a Saturday. But yeah, that to me, that's probably the funnest part of the event still is those terrain weekends. We'll get 20 people together. We'll watch a bunch of bad 80s action movies and science fiction movies, and we'll just paint 300, 400 terrain pieces in a weekend, so.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow. That's quite something.
But I'd say there's probably like a dozen or so of us that work on the event year round. And then maybe that doubles when we get into the final few months when we're doing things like engraving medals and, getting stuff printed and we have a monthly meeting that's open to anybody running events. And then that usually draws somewhere around 30 to 40 people. But, I pretty much handle all the registration stuff myself. So pretty much everything related to event submission, attendee registration. If you've emailed Adepticon, I've most likely responded. And then, my partner, Hank, does a lot of the more, he's in a meeting he's in a meeting with Games Workshop right now. So, he does a lot of that sort of stuff, handles a lot of the technical stuff, the interface with the hobby seminars and how those, making sure we have enough cameras and TVs and all of that kind of stuff. And then we have Greg and Shelley, who are pretty much our exhibitor hall and kind of hotel liaison event space liaison. Deals a lot with the contractual stuff and laying out of the exhibitor hall and dealing with relationships with all the exhibitors. As well as also getting some of our charity stuff rolling. And then there's another dozen or so people that are doing all kinds of small things for us, like leading up to the event, and then do a pretty heavy lift, really, like the last few months probably. I think we took 5 semi-trailers up this year full of stuff.
Wow.
So loading those semi-trailers is like a month and a half long process, right? Because they drop one, we load it, they store it, they drop another one, we load it, and we just keep going. And a lot of that is giveaway stuff, like two trailers probably worth of like stuff that we gave away or were part of the advanced badge swag bag, right? So we end up storing a lot of that for, I think Games Workshop dropped 2,000 copies of Skaven tied at us in like November, and we had to store them. So
holy smoke.
Yeah.
The question actually came in from Wargamer of Kent. So it seems like you're talking about storage, probably seems the appropriate time.
Yeah,
he said,
perfect.
How do you go about storing so much terrain for Adepticon? And I guess my follow-up question would be, what do you do with last year's stuff, that you keep replacing it this year? I mean,
well, yeah.
Not that I'm looking at it, obviously, but you know what I mean.
We do occasionally cycle out some train sets when they've kind of reached their absolute end of life, but majority of it, we keep, and we try to build it in a way that it's repurposable if, say, a particular event system changes their terrain rules or something, that we don't have to start from square one. That would be ideal. We have a building in central Illinois that you could probably park 2 semis back to back inside, and then it's got that 30-foot ceilings with those sort of like builder supply style big huge industrial shelving units in there. So we have it involves forklifts and lots of pallets and stuff like that. But we have a system worked out where the way we have our terrain boxed up, I think it's 2 tables per box, and then it's by system and all of that. And we do usually take a weekend here or there throughout the year to maybe bring in one of our event leads for a game, say like, I don't know, Star Wars Legion or something like that. And we'll just kind of go through all the terrain, make sure it's packed up accordingly and ready for the event. And then, identify things that need to be fixed, or, we're also adding the new tables that we produced that year to the mix, and kind of just taking an inventory of where we are every year on that stuff, because it's a lot. Yeah. I don't know how many total boxes of terrain, but it's in the several hundreds, I'm sure.
That's extraordinary.
I think that amount of scenery gives me chest pains. It really does.
We have like 168 40K tables, 110 Sigmar tables, something close to 60, I think, Marvel Crisis Protocol tables, 128 Legion tables, and so on. So plus all the extra stuff, that really isn't allocated at this point, that ends up going to Horus Heresy or maybe Mantic or whatever event might need some generic fantasy or 40K events training. Plus we have our own Necromunda train. We have our own Adeptus Titanicus train and Legion Imperialis. We have all of that stuff too. So
wow.
Up your game, Dom.
Yeah, I'm slacking. Yeah, John just says the same thing. Says something to aim for at your next gaming shed. Yeah.
Our internal joke is there's always one more tote of unpainted terrain somewhere. Like, we'll never be done. Always one more tote. So.
I don't know. I think that you touched on it earlier, and I kind of really, the bit that I think interests me the most is, and again, I can only come at it from this side of the pond and what we tend to have here. You tend to have here conventions and shows that are very much predominantly gaming competition shows, and then they might have a little bit of a convention of some sort tacked on the edge. Whereas you mentioned it earlier, but obviously the basics of the show started as it sounds like as a sort of a gaming thing, a competition type of event, so then it expanded. But you seem to very definitely try and keep that balance between participation games, people having time just to mix up and do their own thing, play board games, and do competitions, and of course get out to see some of the vendors as well. And how do you keep that balance right?
I mean, to be honest, I don't. I mean, I think we have, particularly if we take some of our major game systems like Warhammer, like we've designed the schedule to accommodate all those various aspects. I mean, making time to get to the exhibitor hall, that's difficult to do for, although a lot of people who, come to our event early or one of their first or second years, and they just load up on events and then realize, oh, I don't have any time to really spend significant time. The exhibitor hall's only open 10 to 6 every day, right? They learn that over time, though. I mean, it took me years to learn, like, when you go to a Gen Con or something, you don't need to have a game scheduled for every minute of the day, right? Like, in fact, I kind of like having the evenings off when I go to conventions to just catch up with people and play a pickup game or whatever. So, for the bigger systems, I think we kind of know we need a narrative event, we want a tournament event, we want a team event. And then you want some smaller competitive stuff that isn't necessarily an all-day commitment, like a kill team or, spearhead event or something like that. This year, we also introduced what we are calling kind of right now, the Warhammer and Age of Sigmar Flex event, which was meant to be kind of more like casual game, like not necessarily open game. We're still going to have structured missions and things. We're still going to have a tournament organizer, but you didn't need to be there for every round if you didn't want to. Like, bounce and just play one round. You could totally do that too. And for those events, we actually partnered with our the charity organizations, which are two Chicago and Wisconsin children's hospitals. So all the proceeds for those events went to the charity, as well as, like, for the Age of Sigmar, you could like donate $1 and get a reroll and those types of things, right?
Martin's all over that one. Crikey!
I got some plans. Yeah.
How much to swap your dice out?
I'm just thinking about letting people go to the toilet.
Yeah, right. So we did expect some of those events to be able to grow still. I do think like there is just sort of a natural like tournament versus what we call event game balance that just sort of naturally occurs. I mean, I think like a majority of what's happening in the historical room is mostly all event games. Like, do you see a bolt action tournament? Sure, absolutely. Do you see Firelock doing something in the Blood and Plunder arena? Yeah, they're going to do a land or a sea tournament, but a majority of the events they're submitting are event games. So I think that's one whole room of just event games happening without us having it to really like even make it happen, right?
And how do you keep that balance right, though? Because you don't want to be wedded entirely to Games Workshop or Mantic or whoever it is, do you? Because otherwise you're going to limit your audience. So how do you make sure you keep them happy, that they get what they want out of it, but also you get a good spread of punters there coming in to play different things?
Yeah, I mean, I think like in the beginning, we were all Games Workshop 100%, and it took us, I don't know, I think the 5th or 6th year after after the Battle Bunker here closed down, and our relationship with Games Workshop wasn't really even existent for a while because like everybody we knew had went away or wasn't working there anymore. That's when we decided like, okay, these other games out here that a lot of us were playing, like I was playing some Flames of War at the time, and I had a couple other people who were early in Adepticon had got into War Machine. So we were like, hey, why wouldn't we just expand out into Battlefront and Privateer at the time, and some other events. And then I think like as the event grew, like Games Workshop events, particularly the Warhammer 40K team tournament, used to be half of our attendance, right? Now it's like 5% maybe of our attendance. Because those events kind of have a natural cap for us. Like, we're not out to run the largest 40K tournament in the world. I mean, I think Las Vegas Open draws something like 1,000 players. Like, there's no way we're going to try to do that. so those events kind of have a natural cap for us based on the terrain we have and the way we run events, and have just sort of, as the events grow and all that extra event growth just has given us room to do other things, right? Like we're not scaling.
No.
We may add a 40K event. Like this year we added Flex, and over the years we've added a doubles tournament. We have our Warhammer Friendly, which is just kind of a weird, fun event. And then Kill Team and things like that. So we may look at adding new events within those realms, but they kind of plug into the schedule we already have. So a lot of that growth in both the space and attendees is really just new stuff, really, for us. So, like this year, like we've had, this year we were able to give, like, say, Magic Games their own room. And they, before they used to kind of be in a hall with a bunch of other events, but now they have their own event space. And we were able to, we have the Grim Dark Alley, which is the Hive Scum podcast guys. They're running a bunch of indie games like, what's that game? 1490 Doom, or podcast has a game called Flames of Orion, which is kind of like a BattleTech game. They're running a lot of these like small independent kind of like punk rock war games, right? And like that's a lot of fun too, to see that, because there's a lot of creativity and kind of weirdness going on in that realm that I just think a lot of people generally don't get exposed to. So I like to see that sort of stuff happen. Of course, Trench Crusade is massive right now, and really they had a demo presence and an exhibitor hall presence with us, and they did a keynote kind of address, but they didn't have organized events this year, but they will next year for sure, right? And that's going to be probably pretty big, I suspect. So
I think we can sign up Alex Storm of Steel for that. He'd be definitely all over that. So do you feel sort of obligated in a way to sort of keep that spread and introduce people to newer games, and you feel pressure in a way to sort of keep up to speed with what's happening in the gaming world and make sure that features in Adepticon in the right way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is important to us. I mean, I think we enjoy exposing people to new games, and I think we like to see where games can go. Like, if you had told me, certain events like, I don't know, Conquest or Bushido, like they have like legitimate followings now at Adepticon. They can draw 48 players for a tournament for Bushido, or 64 players for a Conquest event. Like Free Blades is another one that's had good success at our event. They've run relatively large events, and I kind of consider any event that can draw 48 or more players like in that kind of major tier for us. That said, I think we've always tried to take the approach that every event we run, whether it's a 4-person RPG or a 512 player team tournament, we really would prefer to give it all kind of the same amount of attention, and like we're available to those people, whether they're organizing, small events or large events, right? They can come to the meetings, they can come to our staff parties, like it's all open. So, and Hank and I are always more than willing to jump on a call with anybody, right, to talk about any event. And as long as that person wants to be a champion for that event system, then like we want to support it, right? Like we can't champion every single game system, and like we've kind of made our bet with the big events, because that that's really what gives Adepticon its backbone. But we love when people come and say, hey, I absolutely, love Trench Crusade, or, maybe a new game like 1490 Doom or Sun Rot or something like that, and I want to come and make it a thing, like at Adepticon. I will find you space to do that for sure.
Awesome. That seems like a natural break to have a little pause and do a little bit of news, and then we'll come back, and I want to talk about the move to Milwaukee, what that involved, what that's brought to the convention, and maybe touch on some of the future plans, because I think that'd be really interesting as Adepticon grows and grows and grows. So Let's just do a little pause. Gives Matt a chance to gather his breath, and we'll do some newsy stuff. So let me play this horrible video.
You don't have to.
I do, Martin. I'm contractually obliged.
I feel like we build up just this small bit of credibility, which then we just flush down the toilet at 9 o'clock.
We then just destroy with that moment. Yeah, all right, fair enough. Go on then. What have you found? You can start.
Well, again, it's still there is stuff going on, but after the salute announcement, it's sort of slowed down a little bit. But I have a couple of things. There was obviously some of these have been gathered over the last couple of weeks, but over on War Games Atlantic, they announced the Age of Reason. So they're jumping in to begin with into the AWI.
Everything's gone AWI.
It has, but they're going in at 28. Rather than
scale.
So this is their this is the militia frame, I believe. Is it? Or is this the, and then they've also got some British Grenadiers as well. So it's early days, but War Games Atlantic are just pumping out stuff at the moment. They really are.
They're on steroids, aren't they? They're chucking it out.
When we had Charlie on, I said to him, "Do you guys actually sleep? I mean, are you allowed to sleep? Is it just like working 24 hours a day?"
Is it because one of them's over there in the States and one's here, but there's always someone awake?
Always somebody awake.
24/7. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So those are on the horizon. I picked up. I got this just because. So TT Combat have the game Carnivale. Sort of skirmish game set Venice canals. I always really like the tables. The tables look amazing. It's quite a draw. What do you make of this? It's a chariot pulled by ostriches. because
why not?
Because why not?
Yeah, it seems.
Well, I thought it was I thought to begin with it was the chaps from Clockwork Orange that were on it for a second. But yeah, I mean, I could see that in a Midgard army taking the lead.
Can you use that as an upgrade in the Emu Wars, maybe? just a thought.
That's amazing. Steve, I got one for you. This is because I know this is such a close game to your heart. Did you know that it's now a board game as well?
Oof! No, I did not.
Did you know?
I think that means no, he didn't.
No. So yes, the Sniper Elite. It's got new expansions and a reprint for its board game with.
Can you shoot people in the ghoulies?
I probably.
For me, that's a kicker, unless I'm not blowing off your softies. That sounds awful, isn't it?
That sounds horrific. What are you on about?
That sounds horrific.
What are you talking about?
I don't know what. I think he's just had a moment.
But I did not even know that existed.
Yes, it is. It's over on Kickstarter at the moment, I believe. Unless I'm much mistaken, which is actually the game is I think done by Rebellion, who own Judge Dredd. So anyway, that was a bit weird. And then the other one, which I think people are going to like, but I know Steve's going to cringe because GW dropped this today, and it's the new Space Wolves. So we have some of these.
I love these.
Yeah. Now I can't remember. Is this the color that you don't like, or the color that you do like?
No, I prefer them in the grey, not the blue.
So this. No, this. Oh, right. Okay. Right.
That's
okay. But so there's some new Wolfguard Terminators. I'll save the biggest one till last. There's this chap. So they've definitely fully embraced that very Norsey, Space Norse look.
Yes.
I've got to admit, actually, I do quite like that one. I think that one's very cool. I did see I've already seen, I think Matt and Paul in the group have already posted up that they're dropping everything to do these. Here is Jarl Stormcaller. I think that's quite a cool pose. I would probably lose the Raven and have that on like
I would lose the Raven as well.
I'd have it like on another base near him. And then there's this. Now I know what James is going to say immediately, so let's just put him up. There's look. I mean, that is I genuinely thought I didn't see the tactical rock to begin.
Rock.
What, those are his boots?
Other than that, it needs to see a chiropractor very quickly. One or the other.
That is a very very cool.
That's a stonker.
Very cool.
I think like Paul and Matt, no foot on rock pose.
Oh no, the previous one, yeah. I think these do look cool. They were doing so well, no tactical rocks, then we get tactical mounting. I do. I think that's very cool. I really do like that model actually. I think that's a very cool cool post. So I thought that you might enjoy that, Steve. But
those Terminators. Oh yes.
I mean, lots of weird stuff there. Jeez. Let's get back to some serious historical stuff, shall we? What about, did you see this? The new Hail Caesar supplement? Rome Conquest of the East.
Oh, yes. I thought we talked about it last time, so I couldn't remember. I
don't think so, but if we did, it's worth talking about again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just really interesting. Again, it's just another supplement. And I think with the supplements that we're getting, I mean, we're getting one every 2 months at the minute.
It appears that way at the moment. Yeah. And Mithridates is the coolest dude in ancient history. I think he's just an amazing dude. I'm going to do a video on him just alone.
That's quite a statement.
He's just the dog's doodahs. I mean, just didn't know when he was beaten. Extraordinary, man. I'm really excited about that because then I can get my pike blocks out again and go kill Romans, which is always good.
They're very cool. He does look very cool.
I'm not sure about the figure, but there you go. Games also Steve. I mean, the old Steve, not the real Steve, because obviously this one we have now doesn't do any kind of historicals anymore. Armies of Great Britain supplement is out for bolt action.
Yes,
it's on pre-order. I think it comes out in July. I think is when it actually appears. So, which is interesting. So they're obviously replacing all the different books now with the third edition, and there's also
a
set of British and Canadian infantry. Sorry, in winter wear. So,
did you see the other one, the Crossing of the Rhine starter box?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I did have it here, but it seems to have dropped off.
Yes. Right. Which it's that. I think it's that. Is it a Firefly or some kind of shirt and a armored car? To be fair, I was expecting new Soviets before these came out, but
I tend to agree.
Unless they're saving them for the Soviet book later this year, I'd assume, because that set it needs to be replaced. It's in dire need of being replaced.
Yeah, brilliant. Also showed Khorasan a couple of weeks ago, but they've got also some new Libyan 15mm spearmen. And they're really good. Really nice.
Give me a second. Haley's forgotten her keys. So she's got to comment on the video to let me, because she's probably thinking about it. 1 minute. I'll be back in a minute.
Love it. Khorasan, really nice 15mm. These fantastic little figures. I might have to start a new army. Just saying. Also, Cromarty Forge. They've got some new Persians, ancient Persian figures, whole range of them. So I think they're doing them in 10 and 15mm, and they do look good. I've got some of their Carthaginians, and they are really nice sculpts. Not sure about the tree trunks, but that's the trouble at small scale. The 3D just can't cope with it.
Oh, the spears. Nah.
Spears become rather chunky monkey, don't they?
Snapping off all over the place.
Yeah, but they are nice. They are really nice. They're coming out. You let her in now. Well done.
I've just seen what she's put SOS. It's Stormers.
Also, we've got Great Escapes, Flat Caps and Truncheons.
Yeah, this was at Salute.
Yeah.
No, I was sorely tempted.
Were you? You nearly went for these?
Oh, I nearly went for it because I've got scenery because I figured my World War II scenery would be fine. Obviously not the Atlantic Wall, but like the village stuff I thought would be fine. And I'm doing a cobbled sort of thing anyway for Guards of Traitors' Toll, so I was sort of looking at it, but I relented and just went and dropped a load of money on Dead Man's Hand. So just to increase that. But I think it would be interesting. I mean, I don't think there's interest in this game yet to produce a plastics or anything for it, but I think it's good that they're giving it some love.
Definitely.
I think it's good they're giving it some love, but as you say, I can't ever see it being a mainstream big pickup game, really. But as an alternative to something like Dead Man's Hand or something like that, I think it's probably a lot of fun to play. Yeah, interesting. And also, this is for you, Steve, because I know you like these little critters.
Hey,
so the new.
Oh yeah.
I still haven't painted a single quar yet. I really need to because I think they look ace. But I've got a box of them, but I've never done anything with them.
Well, I've got a box of quar, and then I got quar at Salute in my bag. Then someone else gave me some quar, and then I found another quar. They kind of multiply around.
They do breed. They do that. They kind of that's their nature.
All the quar.
Yeah. Quar delicious. So quar's coming. So they are seriously War Games Atlantic, as you say, absolutely on a frenzy of production, and quar is another one of their many things. They did also show, I think, I meant to pick it up, but they did also show some of the 10mm sprues for their Agincourt.
Oh yes,
yeah, they did. Yeah, that was kind of like almost like a sneaky photo.
It was a
wasn't
little
it? I don't think it was. Yeah, that was interesting. I've seen lots of
people.
There's
no dates yet on that. But... No. Are you going to get them?
What, the Agincourt? I have no immediate plans. I have other plans.
Yeah, it's a possible then, folks. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I think they do look amazing. So anyway, there you go. Plenty of good stuff coming through as usual. Really interesting stuff and a variety of stuff there. So good. Right. We are fast into the second half and well and truly knee deep into the second half of it. So, Matt, I mentioned earlier, I think one of the things maybe for people, I think the vast majority of people who watch this or join us here are on our side of the pond as opposed to yours. The process that Adepticon and I think many other US shows runs is slightly different to how we have them here. In terms of when the registration opens, you sign up for games and you sort of basically predetermine what you're going to do for however long you're at the convention. And so, how does that process work, and how the hell do you manage that?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a burden, but we usually try to publish our event schedule about a month in advance so people can take a look at what's going to be happening at the event. And then when you register for us, you're buying technically an admission item, and then you buy your events or your hobby seminars or whatever, kind of a la carte. And then, our registration partner, and of course this is always kind of a point of contention with most bigger convention goers, is like trying to find the right partner that can handle, because we have a very rabid fan base. So like when Adepticon registration opens up, everybody just dog piles on it in the first few minutes, and you know technical issues that can occur with that. So our registration partner is a company called Cvent, which is one of the bigger players in that market, but they're not used to what we do. They're more like Microsoft's running tech seminars on Copilot, so you're going to come and register for 2 or 3 speaker events, but we do it very differently. We've created some interesting problems for them to solve over the years. But the nice thing about that system is, like, once you are registered for Adepticon, you can self-manage your registration. You can go in at any point, drop events, add events. It also has an automatic waitlist feature, so you can add yourself to waitlists, and when a ticket becomes available, you get a notification, and you get like 3 or 5 days or whatever to grab that ticket. So a lot of that stuff is doesn't require too much management on our side. We just kind of get past that opening registration blitz. So there's a lot of power in that tool for the attendees to kind of self-manage and get into events that, because we do have a lot of people change events all the time. Like I can watch some people that'll literally add and drop events 40 to 50 times over the 2 months that they're registered for Adepticon. And that'll open up tickets for other people to get in and all of that, and it usually settles in a relatively decent place, when we close registration. And then we kind of give all of that information to the organizers so they know who's signed up for their events, who's on the wait list for those events, all that stuff. So, but yeah, it's the worst part of that is, well, there's two bad parts of that. The first worst part of that is editing event descriptions, because people just sort of submit stream of conscious. They don't spell check anything. They're not capitalizing anything.
Punctuation is another thing entirely.
Yeah. So editing event descriptions so they're usable sometimes is a pain. And then I think doing the table layout, that Tetris kind of game you got to play to get everything to fit in the right spot. You got to be on that from the get-go. You got to go, okay, I know I have these 600 events, and bam, I'm going to eat the tables up for those. And then as events come in, you got to be plugging them in. Otherwise, you really need to be on top of how many events do I have on Saturday from 2 to 6, because if I get too heavy into that, I suddenly don't have tables for it. And I really prefer, if someone's going to come in and run events, I want to go, here, you have 24 tables all weekend long. These are your 24 tables. Fill them up with events. I don't want to have to go, oh, well, Thursday it's, Blood and Plunder, but Friday it's going to be Achtung Panzer, and then Saturday it's going to be something else, that's kind of a hassle to do, but I get it. Sometimes people can only run event one day. But a majority of our events kind of end up like that. Okay, these 4 rows of tables are all Firelock games, and they're all Firelock games all weekend long. Build a schedule within that footprint,
right?
And that generally works out pretty well. We do that with BattleTech. We do that with Steamforge. We do that with WizKids, all that stuff. So,
interesting. It's a very different approach. I think most shows over here, and again, it's probably because they're one-day things, but there'll be a mixture of demonstration games, participation games, and competitions.
But it's all signed up on site.
And you basically just wait at the table, or maybe sometimes they'll have a registration of some sort where you can sign up for it. But it's
some of the PAX events do that, like the PAX plug event on the East Coast. I have some friends who live in Philadelphia, and they go to that. And the first time they described that to me, I was like, that sounds like chaos. How
it is.
How does that work? Because he was like, he was running, I don't know, Dungeon Crawl Classics or something for Goodman Games there. And he was like, I don't know who's in my events, or if my events are even sold out, until I just show up and hope people come to my game. That seemed crazy to me. But I mean, I know that it's done that way elsewhere, but that would never work for us. I mean, we definitely do have kind of demonstration games, and we do have what we call open play events, which are usually free, and you grab a ticket.
Yeah.
And it's okay, we'll be running, Trench Crusade was one this year. It was an open play event. It was a free ticket, and it'll just say, hey, we're going to be running demos from 10 a.m. till 8 p.m. every night. stop by whenever you want, and then we'll have a sign-up sheet. And you can get a game in or whatever.
Right.
So, and most of our demo events and free-to-play events like that are zero cost, and they're usually kind of like, a loose start and end time, and you're just like show up when you can. Really, you don't have to be there all 12 hours, of course, right? So
that's interesting. Some of the guys, John and Don, both saying there aren't any real demo games in the US, and it's an interesting one because so you're one of the big shows here in the UK is in Nottingham, well, just actually in Newark, in a couple of weeks' time, up in Partisan, it's called, and that's known for some beautiful games that aren't necessarily ones you can join in. You just literally go and look at, and it's eye candy. That sounds like it's a very different concept to what you have over your side, which is really interesting. I think there's more and more. I mean, if you think about Salute this year, there was definitely more participation games than there were just watch games than there had been in the past.
One thing we were able to do this year, given all the additional space that we had, we basically doubled the size of our exhibitor hall, but we didn't double the number of exhibitors. We basically went back to our longtime exhibitors who had been asking us for more space for years that we just didn't have, and gave them additional space, which did allow there to be more demo events at exhibitor booths. So when people could walk by, they could actually get a small demonstration game in at, like, I don't know, maybe the TT Combat booth or something like that. We traditionally never really had this space to accommodate both, and now we have. So that was kind of really the first year we've had a significant amount of that, I would say.
So it sounds like a perfect cue to talk about the fact you've moved the whole convention now from Chicago into Milwaukee to the Baird Center. Is that right? Yeah. Baird Center, that's it. So it's, you kind of talked about this a lot in terms of the extra space and other things, but that must have been a heck of a risk doing that, and the sort of.
I think so, but I also felt really confident about it. I mean, like, we had started looking at moving venues like before COVID happened, so like we knew we were hitting the wall at our Chicago space. In fact, I think in 2019 was the first year we had events at two separate venues that required you to take a shuttle back and forth. And I think maybe even in 2018 we did that too, because we did some like Legends of the Five Rings and Keyforge card tournaments, but we didn't have space for those in the event proper. So we did them at a college down the road, and we had to run shuttles. And like once we hit that point, I was like, this isn't sustainable. Like, like last couple of years, all of our historical events were at a different venue, and then the historical people would be like, I didn't get a chance to go to the exhibitor hall because it was literally like a 5-minute shuttle ride away. So we wanted to bring everybody back under one roof, and we started to look at spaces, and the spaces in Chicago just did not preserve the feeling of Adepticon. Like I felt like if we had moved into one of those spaces, we would have lost sort of like some of the community vibe that we had. So we started looking at what was in striking distance, and we got a meeting with Baird Center, which is a beautiful, brand new, renovated facility. And the minute I walked in there, it felt like where we had been for the last 7 years, just like 3 times the size. Oh, it's because of what Rafferty did that one Saturday night. He's not allowed to
I mean, to be honest, having met Rafferty and Don, they deserve to be
there's a legal hold on
banished,
discussion.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, just like it really felt like we could easily pick up Adepticon, put it in the Baird Center, maintain all of that sort of like hangout communal vibe that we had for years, just at 3 times the scale, 3 times the hotel rooms, 3 times the parking, and for the first time ever, legitimately set it in the middle of like a major downtown area, because our previous venues are really kind of landlocked, and you couldn't walk out the door and go to a pub or a restaurant or a museum, and all of that now is available. And I think like a lot of people who come to our event, right, they put the blinders on them at Adepticon. I'm going to be playing 8 hours a day of wargaming and then crash in a hotel room. But there's an amenity there that we've never had that I think like really hit home this year with our attendees when they realized, oh, I can go to a, like a smokehouse.
There's a couple of nice bars down the corner.
Yeah, for sure. So, and then of course, that always brings up the point of like, well, if people are leaving your event to go buy food and drink elsewhere, like, you have commitments with the event space to sell X amount of food. Is that going to be detrimental to us? Turned out not to be at all, but so yeah, I mean, I think there was maybe one or two people who were trying to hold out for something in Chicago, but the minute I saw the Baird Center, and this would have been in March of 24, like right after our previous event wrapped up, I was like, this is it. Like, let's start looking at the numbers for this place, because I really think this is it. And eventually everybody got on board with that. We went ahead, made the commitment, and then started to kind of rebuild those relationships with, the city of Milwaukee and the people at the Baird Center. And they were fantastic. Like, we had just great relationship with them. I don't think they really quite understood what was about to happen. There were multiple times where Danny, who was our main point of contact during the day at the Baird Center, would be like, wait, what's happening right now? Why are all these people here? What? Because like, there was thousands of people there, like Wednesday, maybe even Tuesday, but definitely Wednesday morning, just milling about. There were a couple of exhibitors that were open in like the foyer spaces, and then they were just getting ready to pick up their badges and pick up their swag bag and maybe go to the Games Workshop preview, but blown away by the number of people that were there Wednesday, like the rabid sort of fan base, so but yeah, I mean, I am confident in saying, like, we knew Adepticon 2025 would be a learning year for us because none of us are local. We got to learn that venue. I probably did 20,000 steps a day for 7 days straight. And that some things would get missed or some things could be improved upon coming out of this year. And that's true, but I don't think this year could have gone better given all the sort of uncertainty and questions we had about the venue. Usually, like, Hank and I, we're putting out fires in the morning, every morning, right? Like, okay, what do we got to deal with? We got to run around, do that. He called me like Friday morning, and he was like, so what do we got to deal with? And I'm like, nothing. I think we're totally fine. And he's like, are we just hosting at this point? I'm like, I think we are. So like, yeah, that was unheard of. I mean, I would expect there to be a full weekend of fires given in the new venue, and it generally went pretty smoothly.
That's great news. That's great. I think for being my sort of contra bit in my brain, but going, there must be something really bad going on somewhere.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel. That's how I feel when we do crack. That's how I feel at work. If I get in the morning, I haven't got any emails and there's no phone calls. I just sit there thinking, right, so what? Something really bad.
What kind of shit is going on somewhere that I really ought to be worried about?
It's so bad they can't tell you about it.
So I'm intrigued because, I mean, again, I think one of the things that I don't think people quite realise is they again, on a very smaller scale, we get it for CrackCon, but I remember Salute having the same kind of issue when they move venues and what have you. It's a big thing, and it's a commitment in terms of financial as well. I mean, the impact, if you get it wrong,
the risk,
the risk to everybody involved that, is enormous. So it's not something you ever take lightly. And it's sometimes people go, oh, you should go off and go X, Y, Z. And it's like, yeah, but really, you got to work through the numbers. You got to work through it actually going to be sustainable and future. It's not just 1 year, is it? You're looking at how long is your commitment with Baird Center? Are you?
It's 4 or 5 years, something like that. With us even looking at beyond that. So, I mean, the way I look at it is I hope that the Baird Center is our home until I'm, retired, basically.
So you can hand it off to somebody else.
Yeah. I look at all the games and stuff I have in my house, and I know I never want to move again. And I think kind of the same thing about Adepticon. I'm like, okay, let's find the forever home until like I'm out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in retirement and sitting on a porch somewhere. But like, and I think we have that there because there's still about 113,000 square feet of exhibitor hall space that we didn't touch this year. And then there's also spaces in the attached hotels. They have ballrooms and various breakout rooms that we could move things into. So tons of opportunity. And like most of our event rooms this year were a little spacious. You know, we spaced the tables a little bit further apart. We did bigger aisles just to kind of make it comfortable, right? Because like we were really tight.
You don't want it to be too crammed in, do you? You want to have a bit of space.
Luxury, we're in the luxury years of Adepticon right now.
So what's your plan for Adepticon moving forward? You've got a nice big venue. You're talking about having a bit more space for it. You know, what's your wish list of what you want to do in the next couple of years to make it even better?
Well, we're committed to taking over the entire center next year. There's a couple logistical things that we're trying to iron out still to determine how feasible that expansion is. That'll give us the opportunity to onboard some new events or grow a few events. I would like to get it back to kind of like, there are certain things that become kind of almost rinse and repeat when you do these events year over year. Like, okay, yeah, this is how we do this. Just, go through the motions and it's done. Getting to the point where that feels a lot more comfortable. Like saying, I'd love to see us hit somewhere between 13 and 15,000 people. And, I think generally like everything else is kind of where I would want it to be at this point. I mean, I don't know if we've ever really had a vision. Like, it's just sort of organically happened. Like, I always joke that we have never really tried to actively grow. It's just sort of been like a word of mouth, and a friend brings a friend, and that friend brings two friends. And before you know it, you have 8,000 people there. In fact, I joke a lot. Like when we were at our old venue, I was trying to find ways to negatively grow for a couple of years just because, we'd blown the doors off that place. I was like, but we don't do anything and we grow 10 to 15% without even, trying really. And but I do think the positive atmosphere coming out of the 2025 event is that number's going to go up a little bit because people were really excited. And, like you were saying, like the risks involved, people don't like change necessarily. Like, hey, I've been going to this one place and it's been this one way forever. And a lot of people kind of, they have their fits and comments and ideas on like why something isn't good or we should do something else or whatever. And, but we looked at all of those other options, or the ones that they would say we didn't look at. We definitely looked at those options. And I think a lot of the kind of fear of the change, the potential problems of a new venue, like none of that really came to pass. Like it was all really a non-issue. And like, I get it, we lost the ability to be right next door to Chicago O'Hare, which is a very nice airport for international travel and stuff. It's a little further away and a little more difficult to get to, but we're following in the footsteps of giants there, right? So that's where Gen Con was 25 years ago or whatever. And they, when they exited the Milwaukee area, they were like about 20,000 in attendance. And that was, kind of really at the beginning of like the internet age, right? So if people in the late 90s were finding their way there, I'm pretty sure people can 2025.
Right. Yeah, very much so. Interesting. Some amazing comments going on about. I think Rafferty's obviously signing up to take on the entire show by the sound of it. In the chat. There you go. That's awesome. So we talked a little bit about this before we came on air. A bit about internationally. I watched some guy from Australia talking about having been out to there. We got Paul Hicks, I know he's in the chat at the moment as well. Came over. There was a whole invasion from the UK, other parts of the world. do you see this as being a truly international show at some point, or is it US first and then is that an ambition to widen it out to wider international fields?
I think it has been. I mean, I think I would consider us an international show for quite a few years. I mean, there used to be like kind of dedicated teams that would come over and participate in the Warhammer 40K team tournament. Like there was a pretty strong Swedish contingent for a while. There'd be people from the UK. We've partnered with Terrace from Geek Nation Tours for years, and he'll bring 40 to 50 people, and almost all of them are international attendees. And I know we've had people from, several people from Australia and Japan. And I think it's also worth noting that a good portion, half, I would say, of our hobby instructors are not from the US. So we're bringing over, all the great Italian and French and Russian painters and stuff. And like, that really builds like a really world-class, like hobby seminar side of just, there's no way like we could get them there if we didn't have like a really good incentive for them to come over. So we have a very kind of unique, I guess, hobby seminar model where, they basically can set the prices and all of that. They get a majority of the fees, and that just gets them over here. Of course, they probably have secondary reasoning. They want to participate in the Golden Demon or something too, right? So, but it really allows us to attract just top tier talent in that regard. And that, I think, that's been attributable to the growth of the event for sure.
There you go. Cool. I heard lots of accents from all around the world there. Yeah. I think that's a good sign. And it's intriguing. I mean, I think one of the things we hear all the time is, the hobby is in decline, it's graying, blah, blah, blah. But I think you go around some of these shows, and judging by the videos I've seen of Adepticon, it's the same there as it was here in the UK, is that there's more and more young people coming to these shows and getting involved in it, particularly on the fantasy side, but not exclusively. So it's extraordinary. It's growing like crazy.
We've noticed like families, whole families will be coming.
That's cool.
And they might not all be war gamers, but their kids sit in a kids painting class, and now we're in Milwaukee, like someone else in the family can go out to the museums or catch a basketball game or something. Like there's tons of stuff to do, and like people will make a family vacation on it, because we usually fall right around the like kind of US school spring break week too. So but yeah, it's we've noticed more and more over the years, and it's definitely been like a question we get asked a lot when we get interviewed for podcasts or documentaries or whatever, is about how we see the demographic of our attendee base changing. It's like definitely you've seen like it's still predominantly the way it's always been, but you've definitely seen the shift where it's younger, there's more women involved, there's it's definitely like shifted. Or I mean, you just grow from 2,000 to 10,000 attendees. It's going to happen, but yeah, it's noticeable for sure. And I think this year we're going to do a little bit to try to collect some of that demographic information, particularly about where people are coming from, just so we can get a better sense of that, because we don't really have any way to collect that in the past. If we don't do it at registration, you're only going to get like 40% of the people to respond to a survey, right? So I think we'll try to collect some of that information at registration this year, just to give us a general idea.
Cool.
Interesting to know.
The other thing we don't have any idea on is, and this is probably a very foreign idea, is that we are, we as an event are open to the public. So you don't have to buy even a badge to come in. We've probably done doing that for about 15 of the 20 years we've been in an event. And that really comes from, me being like, I grew up in like kind of the DIY punk scene. You didn't go to a show unless it was, $5 or less. It had to be all ages. And it just needed to be accessible, right? I think that was kind of like something I was really adamant about. And there's huge benefits to that, right? Like if a dad has a son who's interested in, or a daughter or whatever who's interested in Warhammer, they don't want to spend $130 just to walk in the door for their kid to then spend $200 on models that maybe he doesn't even play with later, right? I mean, and for every 10 people that come up and just shop in the exhibitor hall or play a demo game, like a few of them become attendees. So they spend money on food. They maybe even get a hotel room. I don't know, but like there was never a negative for us to not be open to the public, other than the parking situation at our previous venue, which would get angry. And now we don't really have that issue. So we were able to make.
You feel a bit of an obligation to try and encourage younger people into the hobby, and
I think
people
so.
from different backgrounds.
Sure. Yeah. And that's like probably the number one email I get about that is like, it's not the dad or the mom emailing me that's interested in this, it's their kid. And they're like, I heard that this was free. Like, is that true? And it's like, yeah, just come on down. Like, come on down Saturday, sometime between 10 and 6, so you can check out the exhibitor hall. Like, there's just a lot to look at. Like, and again, you don't need. We just require a badge if you're actually participating in like a ticketed event, or attending a hobby seminar, or entering the painting competition, or to take any advantage of like the perks of the convention.
Of course.
We don't charge for observation.
That's fantastic, and I think that's probably something unique on your side of the pond to hear. I think pretty much every convention I've ever go to here, that they may not charge for children or real youngsters, but they'll or sometimes other halves. The poor old unfortunate gets dragged along, whether that be male or female, being dragged along to the convention, doesn't want to be there. They sometimes don't have to pay, but generally everybody has to pay to come in. So that's interesting.
It feels criminal for me to charge, 2 badges for a parent and a child to just check things out. And, if your intention is just to come up and shop at the exhibitor hall, like I don't feel that we have, any right to ask you for, an admission fee to do that. And hey, if you want to take that admission fee and then, spend it at the Free League booth, or spend it at the, Warlord Games booth or whatever, then at the end of the day, the exhibitors are only going to be happier, and that only makes us happier too. So,
of course. Yeah, absolutely. Keep the vendors happy, and everyone else is happy. So a really interesting question here from James Shaker and Sprue for you. He said, if you were attending Adepticon as a punter for 1 week, what would be your plan? What would be your go-to? Not necessarily just in the convention, but in Milwaukee as a whole. I have to say, James is one of us Brits that is probably planning to come out next year, so he probably wants to know, so he can plan.
He's making his plans,
yeah. But if you were coming along to the show just on your own, what do you aim to do?
I mean, I for starters, I would definitely like kind of dedicate a day to just wander and shop. So like, but that's Friday afternoon or whatever, I would definitely leave a day open for that. If you're getting in early, then, getting a ticket for the Warhammer preview, if you're interested in that on Wednesday night, is definitely worth it. We're having more and more of those types of keynote seminars. Like we had one for Steamforge and War Machine this year. We had a big one for Warlord Games did one about Conflict 47 relaunch. And we did another one for Corvus Belli and Infinity and Warcrow. And then we did the Trench Crusade one. So, finding those, I think, would be beneficial. Sadly, I honestly don't know enough about downtown Milwaukee to make any great recommendations. Like, there are some people in the community who did some kind of great coverage. Like, there were locals to Milwaukee who were like, hey, you're coming to our city, you should go check out this, do that, and that. I don't have the time to do that. I know this, like, for example, the one thing I really, really wanted to do this year, some of the people that organize and run the Middle Earth strategy battle game for us, went to go see there was a Tolkien manuscript at a museum there. So they bought like 20 tickets and I think like raffled them off or something. And I would have loved to have done that. I had another friend's band played like an Adepticon after party show at like a little venue.
Oh, cool.
But I didn't have time to do that stuff. So sadly, I don't know enough about downtown Milwaukee to make any great recommendations yet. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I'd definitely mix up if you're not a competitive person, then there's plenty of stuff to do. Try something weird, like if you're a 40K player, play in the Warhammer 40K friendly. Like it's unlike any experience you'll have. If you're a team player, then that opens up a lot more possibilities. But if you're not part of a team or a doubles event, then there's still plenty to do. But those offer some of the more unique experiences, I would say. Yeah,
and I'm asking for a friend here. Obviously, if you're not into the weird shit, as a historical kind of person, I assume there's a really good coverage of that somewhere out there.
Yeah. So historical had a nice huge ballroom upstairs that Mike ran with some beautiful terrace overlooking downtown Milwaukee. That a very, very nice setup up there. And then Old Guard, new hobby store in Milwaukee that's primarily focused on alternative and historical wargaming, is like one of the nicest looking game stores I've ever been in. Like just the cabinetry and like everything of that place it's way too nice for gamers, it feels like, but it's very they were running a shuttle most of the weekend back and forth between Adepticon and Old Guard, so people could go over there and check it out. And I think they ran some games and stuff over there too. So yeah, and that'll be a goal for us in the future, is to partner with that local Milwaukee community more, whether it's game shops or restaurants or like sports games, discount tickets, whatever we can get, just to make them available to our attendees to give options of more things to do.
So
that's awesome.
That's awesome. I love it. There's lots of suggestion to go to Packers Stadium. I don't think I can do that as a Bears fan. I don't think I can do that. So if you had a magic wand, Matt, and you could do anything you wanted to with Adepticon in the next 5 years, what would be the one thing you'd love to have that you could just build into the event that just...
The one thing that's always in the back of my mind, we did this a little bit in the beginning, and then we kind of lost sight of it, and we have talked about bringing it back. We haven't quite. This year it was kind of a tough ask to layer this one in, but getting back to like the dedicated special guest aspect of the convention. So a bit of a sad note on this year's Adepticon is that Paul Sawyer passed, I think, Friday or Saturday of Adepticon.
Yeah.
And Paul was our first guest of honor ever. He came to the 2023 event at kind of the behest of the Battle Bunker. He played in the Warhammer Fantasy Tournament, and he wrote about Adepticon in like White Dwarf, I don't know, 158 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It was like the thing that like, maybe we're legitimate. Like Paul Sawyer just wrote about this in White Dwarf, and that was something we did for a few years. Like Paul had come back one other time with Warlord, and then we had a few other special guests here and there in the early years, but then we just kind of like lost track of that. And I would really like to get back to that and building like a seminar or an event schedule around particular guests of honor, like, do 3 or 4 a year. I know my partner Hank would love to get like, go outside of wargaming and bring in someone with like maybe one of the Star Wars properties or something that's attached to some of the Atomic Mass game events. So who knows? It's possible. I think that would be the one thing if I could wave my wand and have someone manage that for us, so it wasn't one more thing on our plate. That would be great.
Yeah, that's the trouble with all these things. I wish I could have this, and I was like, "Who's going to do it? I'm going to have to do it, aren't I? Because there's nobody else."
There's a lot of good ideas and plans that people around us come up with, and then there's really no execution because like we're all just so slammed, right? So.
Yeah, I bet. That's awesome. Okay, we are fast heading towards the end of the show, so maybe we'll just take 5 minutes and just look at some of the pictures that people have been sharing with us on our Facebook page. So I remind if you want to join the PCP Facebook page, the link's down in the description down below. Click on that. Answer the 3 questions, please. Trying to keep the spammers away. It's a constant battle.
Yeah, they're getting better. They're adapting.
They are getting better.
Oh, they are. Yeah,
they're like the Borg. They're had one today. We had one today that said, "What's your favourite period?" And he put 60s. And I wanted to let him in for that answer.
I don't. If you remember the 60s, you obviously weren't around in the 60s. That's all I'm going to say. So no, yeah. So please answer the 3 questions. I've had to turn down so many people. I think it's just just answer the questions, and we know, and we keep it safe and secure for everybody. So reminder, we just pick up a few pictures for people's work in progress and some of the games they've been having over the last couple of weeks. It's not everything because there are so many pictures, and we love to see everything. There's some amazing work. And what I love about it, we talk about this every time, but just the sheer variety of stuff that people do is phenomenal. So, so that end, I'm going to start with Steve or Stephen. He showed off a whole load of his scatter terrain.
Oh,
I mean,
that's awesome.
That is
as scatter terrain goes, that is something, isn't it?
I'd take it to the nth degree for scatter. That is brilliant. That is absolutely fantastic.
And can I bring in our snow correspondent? What do you think, Martin, on that snow?
I think yeah, no, I think I'd like to know his source. I'd like to know how he's where he's getting that from. My source doesn't respond to emails anymore. Probably because he's in prison.
Yeah. Probably in prison, yeah. Andrew has been working on his French Napoleonic command groups, which I think is fantastic. I love the guy down on the right there. He's feeding his dog with a bowl. Look at that.
I like the animals in the background.
Yeah, some cows in the fields of it.
Chilling out.
Superb, isn't it? Really, really cool. Touched on some of the slightly odd sort of the Chicago Way games, but also Paul was showing off his Peaky Blinder.
Oh, these look ace.
Nice.
Look at that.
Ace.
Fantastic. I love that series. I must watch that again. Matt was showing off, apparently getting ready for his inviting everyone down to France to his wargaming convention place. He was doing some games of rapid fire. Second World War rapid fire. That
nice.
Good, doesn't
That is
I
lovely.
like that a lot. Love seeing games in action. Really, really cool. I don't know anything about these, but Mike was doing some Stargrave stuff. But they do look cool. Look at them. Wow.
That's
a witch hunter, isn't it?
It's a witch hunter, yeah. It's an Inquisitor witch hunter, yeah.
But it's very cool use of one. Yeah.
Yeah. He said he was using it for Stargrave, so
reminds me, I've got one of Paul Hicks's halfling witch hunters. I've got like a halfling Matthew Hopkins to paint.
Now there's a remake that needs to happen.
That is definitely. Lee, Battle Bunker.
Yes.
He was showing off his ACW game that he put on at home. Oh my goodness!
That looks great.
At home, that table's bigger than my living room.
And Lee, please, you're feeling better, mate, if you happen to be listening. So yeah, good to hear you. I know he's had a few health issues. Figured he's doing better, but that's an amazing game. Pete, look at those. I don't understand. It's weird shit, but Age of Sigmar, is that what it was?
Yeah, I think it's one of the
dwarves.
I think they're the dwarfs, yeah.
The dwarfy things.
The flying dwarfs. I like those.
Flying dwarfs, yes.
Excellent.
Well, I assume so. They've all got fly things, so I assume so. Philip has been going through his medievals and rebasing those up, so
that's very cool. For a minute there, I glanced at that one, and you got the guy down in the bottom right, and I thought he was holding a bouquet. I know it's the tuft behind. I know it's the tuft behind him, but those are. But I just glanced at it. It's like, here you go. Come and get these, and then I'll jab you with this. That is awesome. Really nice.
This is, definitely Wargames Atlantic figures.
Yeah, it is. I assume that's Oxford's livery, which doesn't change for like 400 years.
I'll rely on you for that one.
Sorry,
Tony. This is his Dutch-Belgian militia, which I like.
Nice.
Very nice.
Very nice indeed. And then another Tony had his first game of sharp practice, which I'm very pleased to report the British kicked the French's ass. So that's really good to know. Good stuff indeed. And then finally, because there's thousands of them out there, I'm going to show off Tarquin's game of Zulu.
He was. Is this because he was building Issaman in the mountains?
He was, yes, yeah.
He put out his progress. Bloody hell!
So this is all the. My mate Nick was involved in this game. I think all the Malvern Hill Massive were playing this the other week, playing Black Powder, refighting Issaman, and apparently it went pretty much historically as it was. So probably not a good day for the British. So yeah, amazing game. So there you go. That's just some of the stuff that we've been seeing. So thank you for everybody sharing as always. We are over time. My goodness me, look at that. It is 2 hours goes by so rapidly on a Monday night. Martin, there's no show next week, is there? So
right, yeah, it's a bank holiday next week, so there's no show. Then we've got 2 shows, and then it's another bank holiday. So, and
we're seriously part time in May. Which is fantastic.
In May we are, yeah, but we've got it's good because we've got a lot of planning to do because we've got CrackCon to organise. So we're probably still going to be chatting to each other while we sort that out, and the tickets for that will be on sale imminently. Don't worry, there's we haven't forgotten about you. The people who have emailed in with their games now, you will hear from us in the coming week about whether it's a yay or a nay or what's going on. And it's I needed a spreadsheet, which was quite
all hail the spreadsheet.
All hail the spreadsheet. Awesome. Thank you, Matt, for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Great to get in.
Thank you.
To that behemoth that is Adepticon and all the plans that are
let us know if you're going to make it over.
Well, I think Martin and I and a couple of other crew are definitely planning to be over next year. I think that's on the cards, that's for sure. Awesome. Even the bosses have told us we're allowed to come, which is extraordinary. So Steve, unfortunately, cannot leave his flat because he's already been out 3 days this year, so he's not allowed.
I've already mingled with humans twice this year, so
that's far too much. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Really appreciate it. So not next week. Not sure where we are the week after. We'll let you know.
We'll put it all up on the group.
We'll put it on the Facebook page. But thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you once again, Matt. Really appreciate it. And we will all see you in a couple of weeks' time. Have a really good time. I hope your gaming is fun, and stay safe out there, everyone. See you again soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.